Okay, welcome to our first video on isometric drawings. We are going to start with the basic of isometrics and lay out the first example. There is basically three parts to completing an isometric drawing. The first part is to find the overall dimensions of the shape and draw the cube that that shape would fit within. We're going to do this with construction lines, which are very, very light lines. They should only really be visible for the person doing the drawing, so that would be you in this case. Obviously, for presentation purposes, so that you can see the lines, I'm going to have to draw them a bit darker. After you lay out the box that it will fit within, you are going to lay out the details, again with construction lines at first. Third step, we are going to darken the object, and then lastly we are going to shade it. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I realize it is hard to see, but if we count the spaces, this is 5 spaces deep by 5 spaces tall by 8 spaces wide. And you can find this in Schoology under General Student Resources, and this is Isometric Part Sheet 1, so you can get this actual sheet in that location. So let's go ahead and get started with the drawing. When we are drawing, we're going to try and use the graph paper as much as possible so we can get as many of these as we can onto one sheet. Which means we are going to start drawing up here in the corner without touching the border. So these two dark lines are considered the border. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, my first step is to locate and draw the box. So I need to find a location where I can get 5 spaces deep. So that's 2, 4, and 5. 5 spaces tall. And 8 spaces wide. So we have our 3 main axes. Now we can go through and put in the rest of our layout lines to create that box. Notice too that any line that is parallel to my 3 major axes is going to be parallel to the graph lines on the paper. So this is 8 again, and 8 a third time, and then I can connect those 3 points to finish up the box. Alright, so we've completed step 1, which is sketching in the box that shape will fit within. Step 2 is to start laying out the details. So I'm going to begin with the faces that are on the face of the box. So on my front face, that is this L shape. And that is 2 spaces in. Okay, and actually, I kind of messed up. So I'm going to go back and erase some. I made this 4 spaces tall. So that's going to be 5, and 5, and 5. So we're going to make that quick change and continue back with our drawing. So there is our L shape on the front. And then on the side view, we have these two rectangles on the bottom portion of the right side. And if you look closely, those are each 1.5 boxes deep. So I'm going to go 1.5 boxes and draw a line down. 1.5 boxes, draw a line down. And then on the top, I've got two rectangles here and here that are 2 by 1. And they connect to the front view and then obviously in the back as well. So those are all the edges that are on the face of the box. And from this point, I need to create all the details that are not on the face of the box. So I'm going to bring down this back edge and complete that. And then the horizontal that creates this base. And then I'm going to come down on the top to create this indent. And then connect those to their respective corners. And then we have what I would consider the most difficult portion of this, which is the indent that is here on the bottom slab portion where my pencil is. And that goes back 4 spaces so that there are 2 left between this vertical wall and the indent. So there is the top line of that back indent. And then if we've done this correctly, those 2 should line up and be like so. And finally, we have a vertical line at this corner to complete our overall shape. And if I were to do this, and I drew these lines this dark, I would have erased them quite a while ago. But again, for demonstration purposes, I had to leave them dark enough that you could see them. So our last step is to go ahead and shade this. So our second to last step is to go over this and darken in just the object that we want to be seen. Okay, so we've darkened in our object, and our last step is shading. So for shading, shading is intended to bring out and emphasize the fact that this is three-dimensional. So for the purposes of shading, we are going to pretend that there is a sun or some sort of light source coming from the back of the object. So if the sun is in the back, our front is going to be completely in shade, and we're going to make our right side faces a mid-tone gray and leave our top faces untouched. So let's go ahead and get started with that. The easiest way generally to shade is to do your light surfaces first. That way, anywhere you go out of the lines, you will just cover up with the darker shade. So when you do shading or any kind of light drawing, you're going to actually hold your pencil higher so that you can't put as much pressure on it. And I tend to shade at a 45-degree angle. And the main key here is to keep our shading uniform so that one face has the same darkness as the other faces that are parallel. Okay, and we are not scribbling, so this can be or should be completely filled. So that is our side faces, and we actually forgot one. This is the one that's easy to skip, but we have a vertical face that's parallel to our right side, right there. And then our faces that are parallel to the front, we are going to make dark so that they look like they are in shadow. So we're going to start up here on our little vertical portion. And the order of this doesn't matter. This is just the way I'm choosing to do it. And again, we are aiming for our shading to be uniform. And this is easier with a slightly dull pencil. So that you can get that nice soft shadow. And if you take your time on this, you should not be able to tell where you started and stopped on each one. Obviously right here I've got some shading going on. I want to try and blend those together as much as I can. And it looks like I'll have to come back after the fact and do that. And with that is the completion of our first sample. So we will go ahead and do a couple more of these in our next video.